This is Charlie Belfontaine, and you're listening to the Homebuyers Hour on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And it's weird, when I say that AM 820, I feel like I've been watching some comedy channel television where they're making fun of other politicians.
It's actually where facts matter. Where facts matter.
I was going to say where facts matter.
Not where the facts matter. Come on.
Dude, I only got one feeling when you heard it already.
Well,
we're not even 8 seconds into this thing, and you hurt my one and only feeling.
That's why I'm here.
Anyway, who are you?
Who am I? Who am I? Hi, my name is what? My name is Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law. I'm a real estate lawyer. You would hire me when you buy or sell your home. Make sure the process goes smoothly. Find me on social media. On Instagram, I am at Loftus_law. On TikTok, I am at Loftus Law.
And we're going to rip on Joey a little bit because he's not here, so we're just guessing.
Yeah,
we're not even going to put the romantic music on for him. But we're guessing that his brand new Cybertruck might be in the shop right now, so we're going to tease him just a tad about that.
He's on the side of the road next to a saguaro cactus going, I can't wait.
It's almost like half tank looking. It's terrible.
Someone help me.
But it does draw a lot of attention, so that much I got to say is pretty cool about it.
It's got one windshield wiper. Ooh.
Oh, what do you need? You only got one windshield. Anyway, Steve Davis, tell us a little bit about Kamar Group.
Steve Davis, residential real estate with Real Brokerage and the Kamar Group. I help you buy, sell, invest, and more importantly, give you the attention and direction you actually need to fulfill your lifelong, destiny of buying or selling a house.
Whether or not you actually take the good advice, right?
That is correct.
We're going to get into that.
Yes, we are.
And pretty hard.
And Charlie's favorite real estate agent.
You are my favorite
That's
real
right.
estate agent.
And it's not just today. It's every day. I want everyone to hear that is listening to this right now.
Steve is my favorite
every day.
real estate agent every single day. I'll come out and admit that.
Wrong.
So, but today,
we
are going to be talking about, I'm going to actually aim it more towards professionalism and consulting. And why do we even need to hire any of these professionals that are here? Can we just do this stuff on our own? What is the value of everybody in here? And, and I think I've said this many, many times. In all of our professions, there's a lot of weaknesses. And identifying those weaknesses in our profession is huge in order to get the right consultant to come and help you, especially in the real estate agents, all right? And I am going to confess, as a home inspector for over 31 years, I am very prejudiced against real estate agents. And a lot of people say, well, why do you have a real estate agent on the show all the time? Because there are good ones out there, and I want to bring them out and just promote what it is to look for and bring somebody who's out there to really help you. So, Steve, I'd like to get a little bit of advice and information from you, and maybe a horror story or two. How do you tell somebody in the beginning, what is their house worth? Why work with you? I know that there's people out there that's saying, if the house is only worth $500,000, I could get you $750,000 for this house. And then a month later, nobody looks at your home, and then all of a sudden you're dropping it. And those are kind of some of my really big pet peeves that make me very prejudiced against real estate brokers. All right.
Well, that's a great point, because the fact is it's not just you feeling prejudice against it. It's the fact that I deal with real estate brokers all the time. I am one of them. And I think it is over-promising and undelivering. So you, as a homeowner, if you decide that, I want to sell my house and it's worth $500,000, and an agent comes in and you interview 4 agents, I'm one of them, and I say, listen, I think you should put the property on the market probably at $499 because it's a little bit undervalued. What I mean by that is like a fraction where we're going to get multiple offers most likely, and you're going to go way past your $499 mark anyway because of the inventory shortage and blah, 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 blah. So what will happen is that other agents will come in and they'll say, well, I can get you 6 and I can get you 650 and I can get you, it's all bullshit. I'm sorry, but it is. And the fact is, I don't think that's really a bad word. Is it? Eh.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, we'll
if
find
we
out.
get
Anyway, so it's all BS. How's that?
I see Devin's got steam coming out of his ears.
Sorry,
so
Devin.
I think
Sorry.
And Devin's our producer. That
He's
makes sure that
amazing,
we don't go to jail.
by the way. Yes.
And he is amazing.
He is.
Goodness
He's
gracious.
awesome.
we are live streaming. You know that, Steve.
We are. And it's
So
only
I'm
5 minutes into
still
the show.
Answering the question, but that's all right. So it's overpromising and delivering. So the fact is, you're selling your house. It's probably one of the most expensive assets you own, if not the most expensive, and you're hiring a person that is not going to do what they need to do when they actually, are just trying to get the job done, and meaning just get the listing. I think it's pointless. I think it's really unfair to the seller, because the seller is made to believe that, wow, if I work with this person, they're going to get me so much more. Where this other person said, well, I could only get this much. The fact is that you have to hire someone who knows what they're doing, who has the experience, and who is not going to lie to you to get the job. It doesn't make any sense.
Which sounds great. But how do I do that? As a homeowner, home seller, home buyer, how do I know?
Well, I think it's all about reputation. I think it's all about the fact of, it's the same reason why someone would hire Patrick Loftus, because of the fact that he's very straight to the point. He knows what he's doing. He's very educated. He's done this for a long time. And more importantly, he doesn't BS the client. And
So teach our listeners, Steve.
Yeah.
Where can they find out about reputation on real estate agents? Where should I look to find these things?
I mean, well, first of all, if you get reviews from your clients, I think that's one way. So you can, look that way. You can also look, just Google the person. Google the transactions they've done in regards to seeing how many listings they have and how many.
You can do that? The public can do that?
Of course you can. You can
So
look
I
up.
could go ahead and look up other real estate agents and see how much stuff they did.
Absolutely, 100%.
Do you know? There's a website called Google.com. Google.
.com.
If you
Right.
put Steve Davis, Chicago Realtor, there would be results, and I would imagine that at least one of the, after you get past the 25 sponsored results.
You're not my favorite attorney.
Well, I'm just saying, and that's fine. That's fine. Look, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. That much I know. And that's honestly, if I were trying to be everyone's cup of tea, I'd be nobody's cup of tea. So I want to try to be,
Somebody's cup of tea.
So every pot's got a lid, they say. But finding out the reputation is definitely important. I mean, I remember we had a real estate broker in here who, out of respect to Steve, I won't name, but I'll, if you're interested, hit me up on the social media and I'll tell you who it was. But he said, look,
him. He was my favorite real estate broker.
he was. He's one of my favorites. Anyways, what he said is, I'll give him the name and contact information of my last 3 clients and say, give them a call and ask them what they think about me. And, I think that's incredibly vulnerable, but also I think that shows the confidence that the on the unsolicited, what's the word? Endorsement is gonna pan out, and that's a bold statement to make, but also look, the data is out there. If someone's promising you a higher price than what even in your most objective mindset that I'm not sure. Trust your gut on that, man. You should be able to at least sort out the outliers as far as someone who's way over promising or someone who is perhaps way under because whatever, they haven't quite sorted out the data the way that they can.
One of the big things that I run into sometimes when I interview with clients is that they'll be like, well, this other realtor said this and this other realtor said that. And I was like, listen, maybe you should hire them then if you think they're going to do the job. But I'm telling you right now, if you're putting your property at too high of a price, it's not going to get the traffic you want. It may get a lot of traffic at first, but if you get no offers, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
And then more importantly, it's I had a typical situation where I talked to a client. We had a great Zoom call. They don't live in the state, but they have a property here, and they were selling it. And they said, we want to sell our property, this, that, whatever. You came recommended. I was like, great. We had this conversation, we established a rapport and everything else. And then she's like, well, what do you think the house is worth? And I said, well, honestly, I'd love to know what you think about the market, this, that, whatever, because then I can go into the price points. I've already done the research. I already know what it's worth. I already know what I'm going to sell it at. I know how I'm going to sell it. I know how I'm going to market it. I've got the plan already there. It's very simple for me because I've been doing this for so long.
You've done it before. It's not your first
but
rodeo.
it's also, the whole thing is, it's like, well, what do you want out of it? And she's like, well, I'm looking more toward this number. And I was like, I understand that. Can I ask, where you came up with that number? And she's like, oh, well, it's based on, my neighbor's house and this and that and whatever. I'm like, well, your neighbor's house has a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. You have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And that square footage is 2,500 square feet and your square footage is 1,700. So I understand you'd love more money, and I understand that there's no inventory. So I'm more than willing to try, but I'm just letting you know, like, a good agent is going to tell you what it should be. I'm not out there for the number. I'm not out there for my pocketbook. I'm out there to make sure that I build a relationship with that client. And more importantly is, moving forward, there's only one name that comes to mind when she thinks real estate. And the thing is I think that's more important than getting paid one time and it's a one and done deal. There are way too many agents out there like that, and it drives me insane because then we get a bad rap, just like an attorney gets a bad rap, just like an inspector gets a bad rap. So that's why I think what Charlie said about how do you find out is you Google that person, for what it's worth.
What should I be looking for when I Google them?
I mean, first of all, you should be looking for if they have reviews, they have stars, they have videos, they have, Google their social media, Google their Instagram, Google, that is their social media.
How many listings do you see that they have? I mean, that makes a difference.
You can look and see that. You can also look and see what they've sold. You can see their price points they sold at and so on. I mean, if you look at mine, you will see quite a lot because I've been doing this for 18 years.
Well, and when people search, one of the key criteria that they enter in is the price range, right? So if I'm between 450 and 5, I'm going to get a list of properties that are listed for between 450 and 5.
Sure.
And
Is that a normal spread, 50,000?
No.
Give or take, I don't know.
It doesn't matter, but go on. I'm listening.
I mean, look, you can compare. You can compare what you have to what is in that price range, and when the buyer, and put yourself in the buyer's shoes. I know it's hard. It's emotional, right? And you only get one crack at selling your house, and you don't want to leave money on the table, and that's all understandable. There's a lot of fear involved, and again, that's why you have the people like the three of us advising you, because we are looking at it from an objective point of view, without that fear
and emotion.
Right.
The emotion kills it.
But you have to understand that when a buyer is searching whatever the price range is, they're going to see a list of homes that are listed within that range. And what they're going to do is they're going to compare each of those homes. And if you have overpriced yourself, you're either not going to be in the range of people who are searching, who should be looking at your house. You're going to be outside the range. They'll never see your house. Also, when people are searching within that range, they're going to see your home compared to all the other homes within that range, and they're going to go, because the 25 other homes are going to be more attractive. And so you're really putting yourself in a really bad spot just because of the nature of how people begin that search. And then they go to Steve and they go, Steve, this is the 5 or 6 houses I'd like to see this weekend, and your house ain't on the list.
Well, the other thing is, too, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is like, you talk about a range. Well, when I'm selling your house, Charlie, okay, your house is worth $1 million, so we're just going to go with that. I know you'd be happy with that number.
It's got to be worth more than that.
This isn't about me. This is about Steve. Go on, Steve.
You see,
so
we were sitting at breakfast, and a gentleman comes up and says, "Whose truck is that? That's a gorgeous truck." And Charlie's just like, "That's my truck." He's, "Man, that's amazing. Did you do that yourself?" He's like, "No, I just bought it like that." And we're talking about it. We're sitting across from a man who gets unsolicited compliments about his vehicle. That's the kind of money bags Bellefontaine I'm talking about.
I paid that guy $10. It is what
great.
it is.
But this is a true story, though. It happened.
So, going back to what I was mentioning, So your property is $1 million, and I go to list it, or I go to an interview, and I talk to you and your wife, and I say, well, what do you think about the market and this, that, whatever in your house? You're like, I want to sell my house for 1.3, and I'm like, okay, where do you come up with those numbers? So on. At the end of the day, either I'm going to convince, meaning tell Charlie I can sell his house at 1.3, even though it's worth $1 million, or I'm going to go ahead and go to the range and say, well, I'm probably looking at like 1, maybe 1 to 1.1, right? And it's still way below his number. The problem is that agents will ask that question, hear what you want to sell it at, and then as long as they get you on the hook, so to speak, then they've got you, and you're stuck with them.
1.3.
And that's
So then I come
that's
back.
What I'm saying, how do we watch out for that?
You know,
You
he's
just got to research. You got to do interviews. You got to understand who you're working with. You got to ask. As a seller or even as a buyer, have a list of questions. Why you want to work with that person? Have a list of questions. What's your average price point?
This is what we should
how
be
much-
doing. We should put that list of questions
How much?
together for people.
Yeah, like how much? What's your average price point that you sell? What is your what is your location you really specify the work in, right? What is your, all these different questions of like why, how many years of experience you have, and even as simple as like, what do you do to market? Like, just simple stuff, so you're either working with a professional or you're working with an amateur.
how many people on your team? Will I be working with you or someone on your team?
Sure.
These are all the kinds of questions. That's quite frankly, that's a question to ask the lawyer that you hire. There's plenty of lawyers out there who the last time you'll hear from them is when you go, "Yep, I'd like to hire you," and then you would be working strictly with their assistants or paralegals or whatever. And if you're looking for that kind of experience, by all means.
Well, that
I guess
actually would
there
break
is
down. That would break down to the agent too, because the agent referred that attorney, and that agent knows how that works. And the client said, "Hey, do you work with an attorney that has a team? Do you work with an attorney that's like individual, or just has a what do they call it, an LP? No, what the hell?
Paralegal.
Paralegal? Like, how does that work?" Those are important questions.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are so intimidated by the process of hiring a lawyer. They've just been through the ringer trying to get an offer accepted or accepting an offer, and now I've got to make another decision about hiring a lawyer. And I think that the majority of people are just as easily happy to accept a referral from their agent. And a lot of times, not many questions get asked when that referral is made, and it's a good thing that I'm the one who's being referred, because you won't be working with my team; you'll be working with me. I'm the front of the house at my law firm. I've got helpers, right? I got aides, as some would say. We were making South Park jokes earlier, so I'll make that South Park joke once again. But I don't know, Steve, Charlie. What would your feeling be about working with the person you hired or working with one of their teammates?
I get asked that all the time because I don't go in the field anymore. All right, I stay back. So when somebody asks me, "Will you be, the person who shows up?" The answer is going to be no. It isn't. My job is behind the camera, doing Zoom calls with all of our clients. I let our inspectors do their thing, and then I try to be part of everything else in there.
So you're involved, though.
I am involved, but not to the point that people want me, because when I talk to somebody, I try to be as upfront and honest with them. And I'm going to go back on Steve a little bit here. I'm going to give a shout out to two shout outs. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Ontario Jackson of Omni Suite. He's actually listening in and commenting with us today, and he's in part of our business networking group. And I do value him, and I value him for being here for that.
Same.
Second shout out is going to go to my old fire chief, believe it or not, Jay Reardon of the Village of Northbrook.
I've heard about those fire chiefs.
No, this guy was a very smart guy. I'm not going to say that I really liked him and admired him because he was my boss and stuff like that. But once I left the fire department, I realized the value that he brought to our fire department. And one of the things that he pushed on all the firemen was to consistently exceed customer expectations. All right, and you do that, and I actually repeat that all the time. you set the expectations. And Steve, that's what you're talking about when you're getting into the pricing and everything else. We need to set the expectations. This is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to happen. This is the process that's going to be. And then you exceed those expectations. As long as you set them, you can always do better than what it is. And if somebody being a client of mine feels that I gave them more than what I told them I would give them, they felt they got a good deal. And they did. I want them to feel that way. I want them to be given a good deal. But if I give them less, if I overpromise and underdeliver, now they're going to feel I lied to them.
Well, and when you set those expectations as well, I mean, it goes in the other direction. You think about, all right, so here's the expectation level that I think is reasonable for us, you, me, and the client. And if their expectation level is higher, that's an opportunity for them to say this might not be a good fit. And likewise, if someone is dead set on overpricing their home, they're doing you a favor if they don't hire you to list the home. There are people out there, no matter what magic words you say, they're not going to necessarily value the same things you value. If they're dead set on, for example, shopping strictly on price, they're probably not hiring you. They're probably not hiring me. I reckon they're not hiring Steve
Absolutely
either. But that's perfectly fine. That's part of why the real estate market in general, for all of the various people involved, the three of us included, is so varied, and it's there's something for everybody out there.
It really is, and that's part of the reason why I'm trying to finish that book on hiring real estate professionals as you're going through this stuff. And one of the things I was thinking of with that price thing, because again, it is a pet peeve of mine. What if you made a deal with somebody? All right, listen, this is what I think this house will sell at. All right, here's the information I'm basing everything up there. I get it. You want to try for the 1.3. How about we do this? How about we give it 2 weeks? Is that a bad
I've had
suggestion?
that conversation, sure. But I mean,
Does that harm somebody selling their house?
Of course, 100% it does.
Yeah,
Educate
as soon
me.
as
Why does it
sure,
do that?
It's a risky move.
As soon as you list the property, as soon as you put it on the market for everyone to see, the clock starts. The clock in this case is not a good thing. You get a first.
I need more knowledge on this. What
I'm
do you
working
mean by
on
the
it.
clock?
I'm working on it.
Time on the market.
Right.
on the market.
Time
Okay,
on the
thank
market. So what happens is you think it's not going to hurt you. All it's going to do is provide evidence that whoever told you or whatever advice you got was either right or wrong, right? And by that time, what happens is your property then looks like there's something wrong, or it's now vulnerable. So Patrick, as my buyer, comes in, he goes, I love this property, this, that, whatever. Steve, it's been on the market for 37 days. What do you think, Steve? And I'm like, well, in this typical market, you're probably looking at anywhere between, 8 to 12 days for it to be off the market, so on. We're looking at 33 days, this, that, whatever the property is, 500,000, let's offer 450. When that client wanted 475, or they wanted 525 because their agent said, you'll get 420. You'll probably get it over ask because of the way that you priced it.
So what I'm hearing is perception of power. All right.
Sure.
I'm hearing that, if we go over and the dates on the time on the market get longer,
your property becomes vulnerable.
And you lose leverage.
You lose leverage.
Yeah.
If you do not, right? So in other words,
that makes sense to me.
If it's off the market, in other words, on PLN, which is private listing network, which basically means that, not the average consumer can see it, but other agents can, then you have all the leverage as the seller. Because
Is
then,
that why real estate agents do that?
100%. That's why I do
Try
it.
to figure out where
Dip your toe in the market.
You're testing the market to see if you're priced right.
without starting the clock.
Yeah. So
as
for
you call
instance,
it,
when
the time on the market.
yeah, so I put a property, I always have properties on PLN before I list them. And the reason being is I want to see the traffic. Now, if I don't get a lot of traffic, what's on the PLN, and I have the pictures, there's a problem.
What do you mean the pictures?
Pictures meaning professional photography
And
of the
forgive me if
home.
these questions sound dumb, all right?
They don't sound dumb.
Thank you.
That's all good.
Yeah.
The fact is that this is why it's important to have those questions. We just brought up having questions. Why is that important? Why does the PLN make more sense than making it live? Some agents would tell you, no, you need to make it live because then you get everyone to see it and you get more money. Not right away. And if you do, great. But what happens if you don't? You're making a decision based off of, well, if I do that, I know that everyone's going to see it, so I'm going to get multiple offers. What happens if you're not priced right? What happens if the fact is all of a sudden the market tanks in the area? Whatever the reason being, you need to have the education to make the best decision for you and your family. And agents out there are not about that. They're about, I need to get this listing and then I'll drop it 4 times and you'll still stick with me because you signed a contract. Yeah, well, let me tell you about the contract. A contract is something that makes you, as the seller, you're stuck in it. And if you leave, then maybe you get away with it. Maybe you have a fine, a fee to get out of it, whatever. But it's a headache to you. And when you put it back on the market with another agent, oh yeah, by the way, in between that time when you go from one agent to another, there's 40 agents that call you trying to poach your listing, where all you're trying to do is interview a new agent because the other agent didn't do the job. And that time is more headache.
Canceled listings. Yeah.
And then on top of that, when you relist it, it's a new listing, right, on the MLS, but any good agent is going to go into where it shows the property history in the additional notes, and they're going to see, oh, it was listed with, ABC Realty with this agent, and they had it, listed for 37 days, and nothing happened, and it shows that nothing happened. So clearly it was priced too high. Oh, look, I leverage, even though it's a brand new listing. See, agents don't know that. They don't go off that. Clients don't know that because the client just sees that it's new and they think it's a new property. That's also why a bit of a tactic with agents is they're like, oh, well, let's go ahead and cancel and relist the property as a new property. It doesn't do any good if you actually know what you're doing. You're screwing over your client.
Well, it doesn't. You're not doing yourself any favors by ending up on the market longer than the average time. I mean, if I'm a buyer, and I may be repeating things that have already been said, but I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, this seller has got to be feeling the heat, because if I'm a seller and I don't sell within that 8 to 14 days, I'm starting to think, I'm starting to question myself. I'm starting to question my own, did I get this wrong? And maybe I'll stick with what I originally listed for, because I just think someone's going to come by and bite on this worm. But by day 28, day 30, they're going, oh no, I think I botched it. And now a buyer's going to come in and they are going to make that lowball offer. And a seller at that point might be thinking to themselves, look, the time is working against me. I've got to be in my replacement home in time for the kids to be in school, or in time for whatever it is, the next thing that's going on in my life. I mean, no matter what the market looks like, time is always working against the seller.
Correct.
Because the seller, whether it's time on the market or what's going on in your life, if you're selling a home, you're probably buying the next home. And those two things, unless you are, wealthy enough to, have
I'm gonna
two
get
houses.
slammed again right now, aren't I?
Well, if your money bag's Bellefontaine, I mean, you can.
I asked for it.
You can buy a house in Wilmette. You can buy a house for your kid down in its school, and then the other kid, and then your vacation home in Michigan.
Those are investments.
And then
Well, let's get back to the expectation stuff. We were talking a little bit earlier about how, how do I know as a home buyer seller what is the average amount of time? And please don't just tell me Google.
It depends
more specific.
it depends on the area. It depends on the space.
And how do I find that out?
What?
As a home buyer seller, how do I know what I should expect my house to be on the market for, if we're meeting expectations, exceeding expectations, or not meeting expectations?
Well, it's all about understanding comps. It's all about understanding what is sold, how it's sold, how much it's sold for, the timing, how it compares to your property. And that's why
I'm just a home buyer. I'm
but if you have
real estate.
If you have a good home buyer or home seller, excuse me.
Either one.
Well, there's a difference.
I know.
Okay.
One buys, one sells. I get
No,
all
I know that
stuff.
part.
but
I
everything is educating the human being on how much leverage they have when they're buying. and whether or not they can negotiate for stuff or not.
Well, see, here's the thing. When I'm working with a buyer and they want to see properties and so on, I advise them a few different things. You know, the first thing is that if the property's been on the market for a while, so on, whatever, you know, there's the chances of negotiation are stronger. I also tell a client if a property has been on the market and it's coming on a Saturday and you want to negotiate it and it's a brand new property and I know it's going to go for more money than it's even listed for, because agents do that on purpose as well, is they put it a little bit lower than the price should be, so they look like rock stars to their sellers for selling the property for more money. But they also the fact is I lost my train of thought when you did that.
Look, what you're doing. So the way you stated that was a little pejorative, in my opinion.
Pejorative.
I don't know what that means either.
I'll look it up. Google. I'm not here to educate you. You guys went to school. You know how to use the internet. But look,
there are people listening to this trying to understand what you're talking about.
They got Google too. It's fine. It's fine. Siri,
What if they can't even spell that word?
I can't.
Pejorative?
Alexa, tell me what the word pejorative means.
And then pejorative. That means that Patrick is trying to use big words to influence people.
That's right.
Thank you, Alexa.
That's right. I got that 7 years of higher education, and I am using it.
Do you realize how many people have their radios on right now, and Alexa is actually giving that
Oh, that's
answer,
awesome.
You know, that are listening to this? I'm sorry, I'm an idiot when
Makes
I think
me
of that
happy.
stuff.
I'm teaching the
She
world.
who shall not be named.
So we're not the Homebuyers Hour anymore. We are the Patrick's Vocabulary Lesson Hour. So
That could be an hour.
I'm going to opt out of this.
yeah, well, that's fine. But when you talk about finding that sweet spot of just under what the market will suggest that the value of the home is, you're throwing chum in the water. You're hoping to get all of the fish and the sharks and the crabs in the bucket, whatever metaphor you want to use, to come in and with their appraisal gap waivers, with their escalation clauses,
which are ridiculous.
I'm gonna go 25K over. I'm gonna make an offer at we're gonna do the Price is Right thing where we bid $1 over, $400,000 and $1.
That agent should be fired.
Well, I've seen it, but the various tactics. I mean, people are trying everything in this market.
That's not a good tactic, though. I mean, if you're going to do a tactic, at least know what you're doing.
Well,
There's certain tactics
that's why
out
they
there.
need consultants, because they don't know what they're doing.
100%.
All right, and I'm not afraid to say I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to certain stuff.
It's the same reason I call you about inspection issues. I don't know what the hell.
Between that and brain surgery, because I watched all the episodes of Grey's Anatomy.
There you go.
And so
I know everything to know about with the whole Chicago PD, Med, and what's the other one? Fire.
I could run a bar because I've watched so many episodes of Bar Rescue.
There you go.
There you go. I could be John Taffer. I could do it. I could yell.
I don't know.
I can come in and yell, "This is disgusting! I don't know how you could run a bar like this. How do you do this to your customers?"
I apologize, everybody. I definitely went down the wrong road.
Seriously, that's
Steve,
your
if you
fucking
don't
rabbit
mind,
hole.
can you give us your contact information?
Sure.
We'll see if we can pull it back in.
Sure. Steve Davis, Kamar Group, Real Brokerage. Number is 312-513-6314. You can find me on Instagram at I'm Steve Davis, as well on Facebook.
Sounds good. And Joey's not with us today, but I do want to give a shout out to him. Joey Matthews, he's known as the VA Loan Nerd, and his website is thevaloannerd.com. His phone number is 630-235-2405. Repeating, 630-235-2405. If anybody has any questions about real estate or mortgage officers, those are the two people that you want to get hold of. My name is Charlie Belfontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. I did have to giggle a little bit. I'll share with you guys. We just received a review from our company, and somebody says, and I get this mistake all the time, make sure you use Chicago Homeland Inspections. And I'm like, Homeland? It's Chicagoland. Because that's kind of what we call all the area around Chicago and the suburbs. But anyway.
What's this?
Our phone number is 312-544-9180. and our website is thehomeinspectors.com. And Patrick, if you don't
It's
mind
not really
giving us
that
your
important.
contact information.
My name is Patrick Loftus. I am a real estate lawyer. My law firm's called Loftus Law. You can find me at loftus.law. You can also find me on social media. Loftus_law is the Instagram. Loftus Law is the TikTok.
Sounds good. And Devin Tingle's our producer, and he just informed me that Alexa doesn't really get triggered by people's radio fun facts. So, Alexa, good night. We'll see about that.
What?
I've had it triggered. But I'll give you a little bit of inside baseball. So, what you'll notice is this might because what's not being done here is adding sort of this layer of that you can't hear, right? So. When you have an actual commercial where Alexa is involved, it doesn't trigger it because they actually add I forget what it was. I dated a woman who was involved with TV commercials, and she explained it to me, and I am half explaining it, but they actually do something with the audio that you can't hear, so that it doesn't trigger Alexa.
Yeah, I went to go visit my son in Memphis, and he put me on all of his lights through Alexa. He signed them all to me. And I didn't realize that was happening. They were just so I could turn the light in the bedroom that I was staying on. After I went home, and for about 2 to 3 months later, we have it set up in our house that I tell her good night, and it shuts off all our lights. Well, I go to bed early, and he's young. He stays up late. All I know is I'm turning off all their lights in Memphis as well, based on what I say to my machines here in Illinois. So anyway, I sidetracked. I got lost.
Modern life.
I want to
man.
go back to the expectation stuff, and going back to, let's say, 2008, 2009. I don't think the average time on the market was 8 days back then. It was probably more like 90 or more.
A lot
All
more.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this, and also I think I heard people saying about River North and South Loop. There's a lot of houses on the market compared
6 months
to
of inventory.
Yeah. It's
6
not
months of
moving.
inventory. So
Everywhere else is like 30.
30
maybe.
days.
30 days.
30 days.
all right, and I guess
If that.
that's where my real question is.
I live in the South
Where
Loop.
do I
like you
find
do.
that stuff out? How do I know that?
You
All
talk
right.
to experienced realtors that actually could tell you these things.
And I do have another thing on interviewing real estate agents.
Sure.
One thing that I think is huge is I would be asking the real estate agents, who are your vendors? In other words, who do you refer? And then I would be doing research on those people.
Being a
All right?
resource, having resources at your fingertips, and having, I got a guy, so to speak, is huge. And yeah, I mean, that's a great point you brought up, is the fact of you may trust me as your realtor, but at the same time, it's like, well, who is he going to refer to me, refer me for for instance, the attorney or the inspector
And
or
if they
whatever.
got bad reviews and they're,
Yeah.
it feels like their clients feel that they were manipulated in a way, well, maybe that's not the person we want to be doing business with.
For sure. And the thing is, though, too, is I believe that no matter what, if you're real and you're not someone who just makes things up to look good, or you're not an imposter, if you will, and saying you know what you're doing when you don't, it's going to come back. And more importantly is you can't be. I learned a long time ago. It took me a while because it was tough. But I learned a while ago that some people just don't want, they're just not going to want to work with you. You just don't mesh with them, or they just don't.
And that's fine.
They just don't see what you see.
Right.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
And,
freedom of choice.
I
Some
mean,
people are dumb.
the fact is that you can't fix
there.
someone's opinion if it's stuck where it's at.
Yeah, if they have a sucky opinion, sometimes they're just
Yeah.
going to maintain that sucky opinion.
Or it's maybe not a sucky opinion. Maybe it's just their opinion and you don't agree with it. But
which makes it sucky.
fair enough. But I would have to say it's a little bit more than that.
No,
No?
it's not. It's the world. The world is black and white. I see no nuance whatsoever. No gray areas.
What?
It's my way or the highway is the way I see it.
You do not.
And that is
you
Patrick
do not.
Loftus.
Okay.
He owns Sarcastic Law Firm.
No
located-
compromises.
At loftus.com.
Yeah, sarcastic _ Loftus_law.
Which one? Wasn't there a Star Trek episode where there was Bizarro, Captain Kirk, and he was
There was.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
that's So, anyways, that was from the bizarro Captain Kirk episode of Star Trek.
All right.
No, but let's go with you, Patrick. I want to hear a little bit on, do you interview or get interviewed when somebody's choosing attorneys?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. What are some of the questions that they ask you?
Typically the main question that they get is, what can I expect going forward in terms of the process?
No way. Somebody actually asked that question?
What can I expect
Of
in
course
terms of
they
the
do.
process? Yeah,
Not me.
Especially
You would not
first-time
ask that
homebuyer.
question? Why would you not ask
It's
that
not
question?
that I won't ask it. I don't get it asked of me. The number one question I get asked is, how much is it going to charge? Or how much is it going to cost?
But you know
That's
what?
the first thing.
But we both have established this, is that us three are not cheap, but we are extremely good at what we
But
do.
the person who's making that phone call to me doesn't know that. All right, so now the point is that their only question is, how much is it going to cost? Now how do I explain my value? And how much time do I have to explain my value? And I guess that's where I was going after with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say most of the time, I don't know what percentage of my business is referral, but it's a pretty high percentage. Typically, that number will already have been given to the client, so they go, hey, I know a good real estate lawyer. If you are enjoying working with me, I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy working with them. They charge $7.99. It's worth it. I mean, one thing I have going for me is, I charge more than some real estate lawyers, but compared to other lawyers, I'm dirt cheap, man. I'm dirt cheap. I mean, my fee is $7.99 flat fee. If I were to bill you by the hour, it ain't gonna be $7.99. I can tell you that right now. But that's the way that this business is structured, and I'll give you a little look under the hood as far as So why are you charging less than what you could otherwise charge? It's because I am paid attorney agent commissions when I bring a seller file to a title company. So it's a weird way to structure the income of a business because it highly incentivizes you to seek out listings as opposed to buyers. But I would say I probably represent 60-40 buyers, to my own detriment. But also working with buyers, even though it's less lucrative, it's more work. But in a lot of ways, it's more rewarding, I would say. Because when the closer comes in, and Steve, I'm sure you experience the same thing when you're there at the closing table. When the closer walks in and says the transaction's funded, we have funding authorization. That's basically just fancy real estate talk to say it's yours. And you go, hey, congratulations, shake hands. Occasionally there will be a bottle of champagne there, depending on the time of day. I may or may not partake. But
that.
it's. Those are like the best moments. That's also the moment when they hand me a check usually, which makes it even a bit sweeter. But and look, that's one of the big reasons why real estate is my preference. Is why I've structured my business around real estate.
So I'm not sure if I shared with you this story. I had a client of mine, and part of doing these Zoom calls afterwards, I get to build a relationship with our clients, a trust, right? And that's very
100%.
important to me. And, whenever they have a bad experience with somebody, well, okay, I feel confident in these people, and I'm not afraid to refer business to them. I had another attorney before I met you that was a real estate attorney, and
I don't like him already.
Her. And
I said them.
Did you say them? I thought I heard him. But anyway, let me get on this real quick. But she ended up selling herself, taking the job, and then the client ended up working with the paralegal and they felt ignored the entire time. That call came back to me. I want to let you know what happened and that this was here, and I really did not feel that I was well taken care of.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, this sounds like, being a jerk, Charlie, and I'm looking at both of you because I do value both of you. But I never would refer her again, even before I met you. And when I hear people having a bad experience with the real estate agent, and I know I've referred people to Steve because I trust you. All
Literally
right? And
just
Patrick,
closed one.
I trust you.
Literally just closed one that
And
went
that
through two
client called me
realtors.
up.
What's that?
That client called me up. I referred a client to you who had a bad experience with another real estate agent. I did not share this with you yet. I'm doing it right now. They called me up and they said thank you to me.
Oh,
All
wow.
right. It
That's
is
awesome.
wow. That is a
It's a
huge
big
thing.
I really appreciate that.
All right. That they made that phone call unsolicited, called me back and stuff like that, and everything went through. And they really felt that they had somebody in their pocket as opposed to the other person who just kept saying, you got to buy, you got to buy, you got to buy.
Two people.
It's a hell of a
Two
testimonial.
people.
They had two people.
I didn't know about the other one. I just
Yeah.
knew about the one.
Yeah.
So to me, and that's where I'm going. I don't have a lot of faith in the real estate professions, and I'm talking about all of them. And that's the whole reason why I like doing this show is so we can get that stuff out in the open, and help people make the right decisions. And
Yeah,
are you going to pay an extra $100 for it? Maybe, and that's really the difference is not that you charge $7.99, but if you charge $7.99 and this guy charges $6.99, really there's $100 difference.
Yeah.
And what are you getting for that?
I mean, in the grand scheme of a $450, $500, $700,000 transaction, think about it. And that is a big thing.
Yeah.
Will I have access to you, or are you going to be behind a firewall of assistants and paralegals?
Another great question right there.
A lot of lawyers. And look, they're probably much better business people than I am because I'm still the one who's, on the ground doing the work. And, the way I explain it to people and the way I try to structure my business is I want to be the front of the house, right? I want to be the one who is doing the work with the clients. And then, I will have help.
You're building the relationship with them.
In the back, the little nuts and bolts of it that aren't directly client facing that, quite frankly, literally anyone could do. I don't necessarily need to be doing that personally, but I do need to be managing it, directing it, and then being the front of the house person. And yes, that is a big reason why I charge what I charge. I think it's worth it. I think it's more than worth it. I probably, my mom told me I care too much. And, it's my mom saying that. So, take it for what it's worth. She's a bit biased, but, in a sense, she's right.
It's not a bad thing.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
I have to disagree with that.
But it's a bad thing when you care
It's
too
not
much?
a bad thing. It's just
It's bad for my mental health sometimes.
it's yeah. I
Okay.
mean, sometimes
see that.
it can seriously pull some strings where you really feel for that client. So you really try to do a great job for them, and you work really hard for them, and so on. And yet you don't feel like they appreciate you more. And then more importantly is like they don't see they take you for granted. And it's almost like
They
when
don't
you
recognize
charge
your value then.
yeah, when you charge less money or you charge less, whatever that is,
You should ask why. You should ask why they charge less. Can I tell you a quick story?
please.
Let me tell you a quick story. So yesterday I had a closing, and the buyer's wire didn't come through, and it got to about 5 o'clock, and we called it a day. So we had to dry close. And I was on the seller's side, and the buyer was there. I was actually at the on the premises. So it's par for the course. Things happen, and you just go, okay, fine. It'll be another 12 hours, and the wire will come in, and this will be done. I know that. I know that it's not a tragedy, but this first time home buyer does not know that. And the closer came over to me because I was in a different room, and she's like, yeah, this poor woman is crying right now because of the way that it went. And I'm just like, I'm like, I didn't really know what to say other than, I sympathize with her because she doesn't have the experience to understand that this is a minor speed bump as opposed to hitting a brick wall. But I'm also not going to try to use words to make her not feel her feelings. That doesn't work. So I was like, okay, in any event, I had to take the keys back, and, hang on to them. And I said, look, when your money comes in tomorrow morning, reach out to me. I've got a super busy day, but I'll make it work.
Nice.
So what I did was I took the keys before I hopped in the car here. I put them in a nice cute little bag that, I save all the bags, you get little gifts in and stuff. And I put a little card, congratulations on your new home, stuck it in the bag, brought it down to my dorm, and I have to be kind of careful about that because they get a little weird about holding keys, but as long as they don't know it's keys, then it'll be okay. I just looked at my email. Looks like the wire came in, so I will reach out and be like, hey, go to my place, pick up the keys. And, I try to do something a little bit nice for this woman because like I said, I sympathize with her. And, even though it's not my client, I do feel like it's a nice touch to at least be like, hey, here's something nice I can do for you because you had a bad experience yesterday.
That was another thing we had in the firehouse. You do the right thing at the right time, the right way, for the right reason.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hearing.
So, just one example of the kinds of things that, when you think about the people you're working with, whether they're on your side, the other side, whatever, it's not bad to actually, do something nice once in a while. I don't know. I just want to tell that story.
Yeah, it's good. I like that.
They're going to come
It's a
pick
good
up the
story.
keys. I just got the emails. So.
No, that's a really good story, and I think goes to the fact of how much you care.
It's a cute little bag. I'm annoyed that I'm not going to have it anymore. But
Well,
Steve, how do we get a hold of you?
Steve Davis, 1994. Oh wait, that's my email address. Steve Davis.
At yahoo.com.
I'm
Steve's a little shook up.
Steve at camargroup.com, as well as Instagram. I'm Steve Davis, yeah.
I just want to add a little bit to this. Steve is, as far as being upfront and letting everybody know what the expectations are, that's where I find your value. You use the knowledge, the experience that you have, and you're not just a single person. All right, it's a pretty big group that you're with there, and I want to say and please correct me. I know I'm going to be wrong, but you're like in the top 10 as a group in the entire Chicagoland area. Is that correct, or
We're
where do
the
you guys
largest.
rank?
We're the largest team in Chicago.
Largest
I do believe.
team.
Well,
And that's for
within-
the amount of units, right?
No, it's within. I mean, it's the amount of people,
Yeah.
and then it's also we do over 100 million every year. So
That's experience.
Yeah.
All right. You don't get that kind of experience if you start doing things wrong. And I'm not here to
Correct.
sell your business, but I do value you
Appreciate
for what
that.
that's
Thank
worth.
you.
And Patrick,
I just want to throw in there real quick. The VA loan nerd is on a flight to Costa Rica right now.
just
He
see
and his
that,
wife are going on vacation, and a well-deserved vacation.
Oh, cool.
I'm a little disappointed he's not driving the Cybertruck all the way down there because, you get on that Pan American Highway with that piece of crap. I will clip that and send it to him.
I'm
'cause-
sorry. That
boy.
reminds me of.
I'm just looking to see if Devin's
of
head is shaking.
what is that?
Right?
What is that? The Mad Max of Thunderdome.
Oh, yeah,
That's what that car reminds
We're
me
going
of.
to put some face paint.
Seriously, you
can
might as
see
well
that.
just put some face paint
Send
on.
him around looking for.
He's a
you
good
know,
sized
water.
giant too, so he
He is a large man.
Fit in there.
Height wise, not he's
Tall.
a skinny, tall man who.
How do they get hold of you, Patrick?
You know what? Come to my dorm in and get a nice little card. Find me on social media. Loftus_law on Instagram. Loftus Law on TikTok. Come join me and listen to my fun.
And what about that
interesting
cheap
stuff.
flights thing? Are you still doing that?
I am on a little bit of a break, but I'm going to restart that later
Right.
in the month because it is about darn time. I've just been too busy, man, making that money.
Good for you. I'm happy for that. My name is Charlie Belfontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. And even though I'm going to criticize one that I'm very thankful for a review, somebody called our company Chicago Homeland Inspection. So I did have to get a giggle out of that. But it is Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. You've been listening to the Homebuyers Hour on WCPT. Thank you, Devin Tingle. And this again, my name is Charlie, and I am out.